Welcome to 13 Minutes of Gig News in 13 minutes or less. You guys, first thing we're going to talk about today. July 12th is this Wednesday, and New York City's new delivery minimum wage is supposed to go into effect. Drivers have been waiting for this. I'm not a big fan of this one. I'm also not a fan of doing just the active time DoorDash minimum wage. I honestly believe that is a test that DoorDash has out there to see what is the lowest amount of money people would accept. I think that just like everything with those type platforms, we'll see that lower, because they're going to want to have a high number and a low, and then they're going to want to crunch that higher faster than they move that lower, if that makes sense. We saw, and if you're wondering why I don't like this, I also don't like what's going on with it. It has been passed. It should be going into effect. And we've known this for months. I've been through this a few times, so I expected what I'm about to tell you was going to happen, would happen. We went through this with Rideshare a few years back, where they were giving them 27.86 or something an hour for what they spent on the platform. But what it did was take away the drivers who worked 50 hours a week in New York City and made $60 an hour because they knew when to work, they were veteran, they had done 10,000 plus rides, they knew what they were doing. This pushed them out because it's a comment I make a lot. I don't know I haven't maybe said this in a while, but it's a floor meets ceiling situation. To pay for the ones that aren't earning so well, you have to take it from the ones from above. Because if you think the company's giving it up, they're not. And clearly, we have not seen we've seen some changes in customer pricing, but we haven't seen something as dramatic as it would take to make up if the company were just helping raise those people under what they're trying to make minimum up. If the company was doing that, that'd be different, but it's never how it happens. And what happened in Rideshare, they lost all their best drivers, and everybody kind of ended up making that amount. It was like you couldn't go more, you couldn't go less. And I know there's some people, I know a handful of drivers in New York City who do Rideshare, who have for a long time. I know a couple who've got out of it. If you go and listen to the audio podcast I think this Tuesday will be episode 243. Drops every Tuesday. 243 episodes. If you go listen in the first 50, that should give you a timeline gauge there. You'll hear even two different rideshare drivers that I knew back then. One of them is still in it. One of them left a long time ago. So what's going on with this? The minimum wage is, I don't have the number in front of me, and I'm looking off in the distance here a little bit. But I don't have my glasses with me either. But it's 17 something. Can't remember what it is, or whatever it is. And the New York City minimum wage is $15, but it's 17 something because the city had figured out that for deliveries on average in New York City, DoorDashers were making $11 an hour after expenses. Now, first of all, we have a problem that every media outlet is addressing right now. So it's one thing when I'm talking about things that the media is maybe saying differently, and I know that a lot of you are anti-media, and some people read the media, and some people are in the middle. I like to read it and then hear some opinions like mine or whatever, and maybe that helps an understanding or something click or whatever. In this case, even the media's, on this and whatnot. And so basically what happened last week, a week before this is supposed to go into place, they Uber, DoorDash, and did Grubhub even get on this? I know Uber and DoorDash and a local delivery place in New York City all filed lawsuits against this. So it will tie it up. It will not go into effect on the 12th. They will keep it tied up in courts until probably they can either get rid of it, make some deals with the city and state, that kind of thing. I don't know. But this was going to be not active hours. And that's where I was going with the media thing. The media, all the media agrees that when they're putting out this, you can make $15, $16, $17, $18 an hour, not New York City, but anywhere else on DoorDash using earned by time. Okay, well, every news outlet is saying this is kind of fake because it's active time. So you can make it, let's call it 17. Okay, it's pretty high for what they're offering around. I know that 17 exists, but it might be only in the really bigger markets and places that are very expensive to live. But if you're doing $17 earned by time, you have to, the whole hour you have to be on active orders to be able to get that 17. And it really kind of, it's not going to work out that way, is how I see it. Even if you can't really cherry pick on it on earned by time, because you can only miss, what is it, 1 per hour or 2 per hour before they'll they'll stall you. So it's a big hairy mess. But in New York City, what they want is they want the 17 an hour for just any hour you're turned on the platform. Now, could they make it so that that's fine, but you have to take every order we send you? Yeah, they could. I haven't seen anything about that kind of regulatory what. And the regulations are a huge mess all over the board right now with the gig economy. I keep saying this and saying this and saying this, and people need to understand. We need definition. Regulations are coming. I didn't want them forever. I did not want them. I don't like regulations. I would never be an employee of these companies. I have to remain independent. Is it for flexibility? Sure. Is it for other reasons? Yes. It's not just the flexibility. It's that, there's a lot of reasons, and we all have our own. Some of us only do this 1 day a week. Some of us do it 5 days a week or 3. Some of us do it 7 days a week. Some of us put in so many hours, it's ridiculous. But to each his own. I don't know everybody's situation, and neither does anybody else. So, this is not going to go into place, but it would have made it so that if you're on DoorDash or Uber Eats, you could just turn on, and whatever the standard was on how that would work is how it would work. Like they said, okay, you can only decline 1 per hour. It's different than the earn by time, because you'd be being paid for every hour you're on the app. Meaning, like, I don't know where in New York City this would apply, but if there's a place, a little nudge of New York City that doesn't have quite the order volume, and you turn on the app, you're not going to see as many orders. So maybe you are just being paid to sit at home sometimes. It's different than earned by time. But what I don't like about this now, that model doesn't work. That model will crash, and it already crashed in New York City. We've seen it. But it did it on the rideshare side. Now this is delivery, but it's the 12th. That's Wednesday, and they waited till last week, these companies, to say, "Hey, we're not gonna do this. We're not gonna." And that's what I was saying months ago. I knew this was coming, and what I don't understand. I get it's just like the apps. It's like gamification. It's gamification with the law, though. Even the judges and the courts and everything know that when these go into place, they're like, okay, well, when will Uber and DoorDash and whoever else sue us? When will the lawsuits come? And this will be put in place for like 6 months. And the week before it goes into place, that's when they sue. It's like, so I hate that. It's like gamification on the legal system, honestly. But here, let me get to the, I'm pretty amped up right now. Let me get to the legislation part. I don't like legislation. I really don't want to see it fail, because it's going to happen. So that's why the August 5th event, so GigCon is on August 4th in Denver, and August 5th in Denver is the town hall at Wash Park Grill. You guys stay tuned. All the information's out there, but we'll get it out even better. But that's going to be a big deal. We got Stephanie Vigil, representative of Colorado. We're going to have some other politicians. We're going to have some news media, some other people flying into town, some people who have been part of legislation in other states that either failed or succeeded, and where some of their pitfalls were. So it's going to be a very good conversation. But I'm going to try and use a quick analogy here. I hope I get this right, because I don't all the time do analogies. But I was thinking about this. The don't take a first offer. If you've been in business before, or you're making a bid, or somebody's making a bid on you, it's like never accept a first offer. Sometimes that's not true. Sometimes the first offer is great and you should take it, because living by that motto without any way to bend it would mean that you're just sitting there going, nope, I'll wait for your second offer. You might not get a second offer. So let's be honest. Respect it and whatnot, and take it all into account. But what I want to talk about, I'm going to actually relate it to fishing. So those of you who don't fish, maybe you'll learn a little bit about fishing here at least, or just a little. I'm guessing most people are going to know this. But when you're fishing, okay, you put your bait on, throw it in the water, see what bites. Sometimes you get a little one, you throw it back. Sometimes you get a big bite. It can break the line, because there's a skill to fishing. Or you can play it. Sometimes you have to play them for hours to get them in. Here's my analogy. I feel like DoorDash, there's a big reel and a big hook out there with a big piece of bait on it. And the fish are smart. They swim around, and I think this has got a hook in it. I don't know. I feel like DoorDash finally bit. And this is a while ago. And I feel like now it's a game of fishing. It's because we see DoorDash going crazy with these moronic moves right now. But it's a game of, the fishermen reeling it in, and they're the legislators. And then DoorDash letting itself get reeled in a bit and then running wild. And when they run wild in the fishing, sometimes you gotta let them run a little bit. You can't, because otherwise you'll just snap your line and then they're gone. Legislation is reeling them in. It's taking longer than we thought, and I'm surprised to see how much DoorDash is fighting it by putting out even more anti-independent contractor moves like they're doing. But here's what I would say. It is the analogy of fishing, because the legislators can't just yank it in. They can't. And so it appears like DoorDash is getting away with murder right now, kind of thing. But really, the legislators are positioning themselves in a very specific way. And it's our job to make sure that our elected officials know how we want to vote. You got to realize these guys vote for us anyway, but a lot of times it's just based on notes or how many people have called. And the only people who call are people who don't like the system. We all don't there's a lot of fixes to be made, but that's across the board in the world right now. So what I would leave you with is legislation is coming. Let's deal with it together. Be here August 5th in Denver. And if you can't, don't worry about it. We'll be streaming it. So that's 13 minutes of news in just under 13 minutes. And we'll see you back here next week. Peace.